Good afternoon, aspirants. I was like in the fine bit shop. Okay. Good afternoon, aspirants. I hope my voice is audible to all of you. Can you please check if my voice is audible and the video is available to you? Aspirants, once again I would like to ask, is my voice audible to you? Your response, brother.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay. All right. So budget. We are going to make a few series of small videos on budget. What I mean small videos is 40 minutes and 1 hour lectures on budget, so that you'll understand everything crystal clearly, right? So my aim is to map between Indian polity, which is Indian Constitution, articles, and Indian economy. Today we are going to map a few articles from Indian Constitution which are relevant for Indian economy and budgeting. Okay, we will try to do this, and we will try to go through a series of lectures so that even an average student or a student who is new to the preparation will understand everything from this particular topic, right? So budgeting is very important. I am not going to teach the history of budget, meaning of that budget. I am not going into traditional way of classroom. I am going to take up the budget which we have, and I will go to the website called India Budget. All of you might know this budget, India Budget website, right? From this website I am taking up the first document. After Finance Minister's speech, there is another document called Key to Budget Documents. I will be taking up this document. I will be explaining you in detail while mapping the same with the constitutional articles, right? So this is the document which I am going to take up. So we already downloaded it. So the moment you listen about the word budget, remember in traditional sense budget means leather bag. Budget means leather bag, okay, in traditional sense, in literal sense. But budgeting is done for every government institution. Budgeting is an estimate of, it's an estimate of revenue receipts or receipts and expenditure. Remember this thing, for a particular time period. So budget is estimates. These are not the actual numbers. It is an estimate of receipts and expenditure for upcoming 1 year, right? So we are getting into the budget 2023 and 2024, which is financial year 2024. The list of budget documents. Budget is not single document. Normally in polity we see that annual financial statement, and we consider it as a one single document. No, it is having a series of documents. We'll try to see what all those documents, and every day we'll go through one or two documents and understand what this budgeting is, right? So we can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 up to L, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, K, L. There are 12 documents right now in 2023 and 2024 when you talk about budget, apart from the finance minister's budget speech. Apart from the budget speech, These are the 12 documents which we have in budget. So we can see that budget is altogether these documents, right? So in this we will try to take up this particular key to budget document, right? To understand, this is the document. Apart from this, in this document we'll understand what are going to be different documents in budget. So we'll try to highlight them first. We will have annual financial statement, demand for grants, financial bill, FPSM under FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, macroeconomic framework statement, medium term fiscal policy fiscal policy strategy statement, expenditure budget, receipt budget, expenditure profile, budget at glance, memorandum explaining the provisions of financial bill, outcome monitoring framework, key features of budget 2023 and 2024, and implementation of budget announcements 2022-2023. Whatever the budget announcement did in the parliament in the previous budget, so implementation of that. These are the different documents we have in budgeting. We have to go through all these documents once in your preparation cycle, so that when you go through this, that for the next time it will be easy for you, right? So you can see here the documents shown in serial numbers A, B, C are mandated by Article 112, 113 and 110A of the Constitution. So A, B, C documents, you can see these are mandated by the Constitution. This is where these are mandated by the Constitution, and all other are from the emanating from the Parliament decisions and executive decisions. Remember, these three are mandated by the Constitution of India. The first one is annual financial statement, demand for grants and financial bill. So these are the three documents you can clearly see here. A, B, C are mandated by Article 112, annual financial statement 112, demand for grants 113 and financial bill 110A. These are the documents which are mandated by the Constitution of India, remember. So Constitution of India respectively. While the documents from serial D, 1 and 2 are presented as per the provisions of FRBM. So before going to the next one, we'll go and see what is mentioned in 110A, what is mentioned in 112, what is mentioned in 113. We'll go to those documents and we'll go to the Constitution and see what is there in these documents, in these articles. You can see here Article 110, I am talking about Article 110, Part 5 of Indian Constitution, Part 5 Union Government, we are talking about Article 110. In Article 110, we are talking about Clause A, 110 Clause A. It is saying that the imposition, abolition, remission, alteration or regulation of any tax. So you can see here imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, regulation of any tax. So this is what we are talking about. This is the source of the financial bill, finance bill we are talking about. This is the source of the finance bill. Normally there are two important bills which you need to remember in budgeting. One is appropriation bill and financial bill. So I'll give you a simple understanding here. One is that I told you that budget is all about receipts and expenditure. Receipts and expenditure, right? When you talk about receipts, you're talking about finance bill normally. When you talk about expenditure, you're talking about appropriation bill. So keep this in mind. As of now, Article 110A is talking about imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, regulation of any tax. Remember, tax is the source of revenue, right? Financial bills are revenues normally, right? Receipts. Whereas appropriation bill is a bill on consolidated fund of India, which becomes the expenditure. Remember this particular part. So I am trying to map what is there in the constitution, what is the source of this budget, what is the source of these budget documents, where these budget documents are emanating from. So you need to focus on this, right? So that is what mentioned in Article 110 clearly. So this will become the source for financial bill, which is receipts part of the budgeting, right, normally. So when you come to the next article 112, A, B, C, A is financial document, sorry, A is annual finance document, similarly B is the demand for grant, C is the bill which we spoke about, finance bill now. So it is clearly mentioned in part 5 of Indian Constitution. Again you can see procedure in financial matters. This is article 112 is talking about annual financial statement. Normally whenever you talk about in polity, this is what you talk about, budget. People always think and conclude that article 112 is budget and nothing more. But remember, article 112 is just one document of the budget. It is not the whole budget. It is just one document of the budget. So you can see annual financial statement. The president shall, in respect of every financial year, so you know financial year starts from April 1st and ends by March 31st, cause to be laid before both the houses of parliament a statement of estimated receipts and expenditure of government of India for that year, in this part referred to as annual financial statement. So this is similar to the statement you have, your own budgeting, your own accounts you have, right? The same way government of India have few accounts on which it is planning a expenditure, on which it is planning a receipt. Okay, we will try to understand that more in depth. When you understand the accounts, consolidated fund, contingency fund, you will understand more of it, right? The estimates of expenditure embodied in annual financial statement shall show separately. What constitution is mandating it to show separately this particular document, to show separately the sums required to meet expenditure described by this constitution as expenditure charged upon consolidated fund of India, and the sums required to meet other expenditure proposed to be made from consolidated fund of India, and shall distinguish expenditure on revenue account from the expenditure. It is clearly saying that this particular A, B of second clause of article 112, remember article 112, A, B, you can see A, B of second class, class 2, subclass A and B. These are talking about two things. One, you need to show in this particular accounting expenditure and revenue separately, receipts separately. I don't want to confuse you with the words. Expenditure and receipts separately. In expenditure, they want you to show separately charged expenditure. The other one, I call it as voted expenditure. I call it as voted, although it is not mentioned here. One is the sums required to meet expenditure described by this constitution, expenditure charged upon consolidated fund of India, the sums required to meet the other expenditure. So they are calling it as other, but I am calling it as voted for your understanding. So constitution is mandating you to show two different types of statements. One expenditure profile, the other one is receipts profile. In expenditure, they want you to show charged and voted expenditure. So I will detail more about it. Remember this particular prescription given by the Constitution of India. Okay. So apart from that, the third class is talking about clearly. Now the student will have doubt, what is this charged expenditure, what is this voted expenditure? So it is the burden of the Constitution to say what is charged and what is not charged. So here comes the class 3. The following expenditure shall be the expenditure charged upon consolidated fund of India. This is the place where most of the questions in polity are emanating from. So you can see here what are charged expenditures, the emoluments and allowances of the president and other expenditure related to his office, what are the salaries, wages, and any expenditure incurred on the president office will be charged, which means in parliament you can discuss on them, but you cannot vote on them. So coming back to the basic formula, of power responsibility theory, I'll tell you. First one, in India, who is sovereign? In India, who is sovereign? The basic question. People are sovereign. It is not you. It is not you. It is not me. It is we who are sovereign. We are giving power to Lok Sabha. Normally, two houses are there. Rajya Sabha. These are the two houses of Parliament. Parliament is equal to Lok Sabha plus Rajya Sabha plus President. And Lok Sabha is giving power to the executive. This is also called legislature, and this is the executive. We call them as Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers for our understanding. So people are giving power to Lok Sabha, and Lok Sabha is giving power to executive. But remember, the sovereign institution in India is sovereign institution. All the people are sovereign. Sovereign institution is Lok Sabha. So India have three accounts. Let us consider you have savings accounts, current accounts, right? You have bank accounts. The same way Indian government is having three accounts. One is Consolidated Fund of India. Second one, Contingency Fund of India. The third one, Public Account of India. These are the three accounts we have. Article 2661, Article 267, Article 2662 of Part 12 of Indian Constitution. Part 12 of Indian Constitution is having these three accounts. The name itself is saying, right, Consolidated Fund of India. It is consolidated. All the money which is coming to Government of India as receipts will be given to this particular account. All this money will be deposited in this account. And then we have the contingency account, and then we have public account. So I'll brief more about them in further in the session. Right now, try to understand we have three important accounts. On these three accounts, we are trying to plan budget. Okay. So this is the amount we have, and this is the amount which is going to come into Consolidated Fund of India. This is the amount which is going to be spent from Consolidated Fund of India for upcoming 1 year. That is what it meant in Article 112, right? So from Consolidated Fund of India, if you are taking money, there are two routes. One is voted route, the other one is charged route. This charged route is the place where it is being clearly explained in Article 112 third class. Article 112 third class. What are the expenditures which are charged is mentioned here. As I said, who was given power? Parliament was given power, especially Lok Sabha was given power to oversee the expenditure. As I said, people gave power to Lok Sabha, and it is the duty of the Lok Sabha to ensure accountability. So whatever the expenditure is done by the executive, they have to present it in the Lok Sabha. So as you can see, this is the power, and this is how the responsibility goes. Executive is responsible to Lok Sabha is responsible to people. This is how it works. So you can see in Lok Sabha, whatever money you are spending from Consolidated Fund of India, we need to discuss, debate and vote. Whatever the expenditure you are doing, we need to discuss, debate and vote, except charged expenditure which can be discussed and debated but cannot be voted. It cannot be put to vote. That you need to keep in mind. Okay. So these are not dependent on any particular government. So these expenditures of the president has to be paid. You can discuss, debate, but you cannot reduce, you cannot vote on that. Okay. So these amounts will be spent automatically from Consolidated Fund of India. The second one is salaries and allowances of the chairman and deputy chairman and the speaker and deputy speaker of the House of the People. So Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, we are talking about seats of power, seats, right? We are talking about the chairs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Their salaries and allowances will also be charged. Next one, debt charges for which the Government of India is liable, including interest. Government of India takes money. Let us consider the Congress government took money. Can the BJP government refuse to pay the interest? refuse to pay the original amount? No, they cannot. So this is the reason why you can discuss, debate and try to reduce the debt or interest burden, but you cannot say no to that. That is the reason why you cannot put them into vote, right? So this is where the debt charges and the interest charges which are on Consolidated Fund of India, which brought in by keeping the collateral of Consolidated Fund of India will be in this particular charged expenditure. Next one, the salaries and allowances of Supreme Court judges, pensions of judges of Federal Court. Federal Court means state. This is the point, another point where you need to remember the High Court judges' salaries will be paid by the state, but the pensions will be paid by the central government. You can clearly hear the pensions payable to respect of judges of Federal Court. Salaries what not mentioned, but remember the salaries, allowances and pensions of Supreme Court will be paid by the central government, but the pensions of the High Court judges will be paid by the Consolidated Fund of India. So apart from that, so you will get the question like which of the following is not part of charged expenditure, like that you will get a question, right? Next one, the pensions payable in respect of judges of any High Court which exercises jurisdiction in relation to any area included in territory of India or which any time before the commencement, any pensions, which is a broad concept of federalism. Okay, the salary and allowances of Auditor General of India, Comptroller Auditor General of India, who is COG, we call them as watchdog, we call him as watchdog, we call him as Supreme Audit Institution, we call him as friend of opposition, because the documents which are given by him after auditing will be used for proper debate in Parliament. Any sums required to satisfy any judgment, decree or award of arbitral tribunal. So if any particular judgment was given and where you need to satisfy a monetary compensation there, that will be charged on Consolidated Fund of India. Any other expenditure declared by the Constitution or Parliament to be charged. Remember this particular point. Again see here, who was given power to declare any particular expenditure, charged expenditure? This is the Parliament. Remember, Parliament is the ultimate institution. Parliament is the ultimate sovereign institution. This is what you need to keep in mind. Alright. So this is what is mentioned in Article 112. Article 110A is talking about the finances, the tax revenue part clearly, and Article 112 is talking about annual financial statement, where we are talking about receipts and expenditure on Consolidated Fund of India, in which it wanted two separate statements, receipts and expenditure. In expenditure also it needs separate profiles for charged and voted, and what are charged mentioned in third class. That is what you need to keep in mind. Okay. So this is about Article 112. Then coming for Article 113. Article 113. Procedure in Parliament with respect to estimates. So how I have to present estimates? What is the procedure? Class 1 says, so much as the estimates relate to the expenditure charged upon Consolidated Fund of India shall not be submitted to vote. It clearly can be seen here. It shall not be submitted to vote of the Parliament, but nothing in this clause shall be construed as preventing the discussion in the House. So charged expenditure can be discussed and debated, but cannot be put to vote. That is what we need to keep in mind from Article 113 class 1. And second one, so much as said, the estimates as relates to other expenditure shall be submitted in the form of demand for grants. So expenditure shall be submitted in the form of demand for grants to the House of People, and the House of People shall have power to assent or refuse to assent to any demands or assent to any demand subject to reduction of amount therein. So the expenditure profile you can see, which can be put to discussion and vote, we call it as demand for grants, and no demand for grants shall be made except on the recommendation of the President. This point also keep in mind. Demand for grants. What is this demand for grants? For your understanding, for your simplification, I will try to tell what is demand for grants. So normally you have different ministries. You can consider any ministry, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of road transport or meeting, electronics and information technology, any ministry. Every ministry will have departments and every department will have divisions, right? So every division or department will have a estimate of expenditure. So these are demanding the ministry that this much amount is required for us. Okay, this is called demand for grant. So you need to remember, demand for grant is given by the departments. You can understand one department can have one demand for grant, two departments together have one demand for grant. There is no such principle that one department should have one demand for grant. This is the amount we need as a department. This is what the escalation given to the finance ministry, and all the demand for grants together we call it as appropriation bill. What is appropriation bill? All the demand for grants will be introduced in Lok Sabha. All of them will be discussed, voted. There will be motions which will be presented on that. In polity, you must have heard about cut motion, policy cut, right? So those motions will be presented on demand for grants, and once all the demand for grants were settled, we club them and we call it as appropriation bill. Appropriation bill will become the expenditure part. The finance bill becomes the receipts part, and appropriation bill will become expenditure part. That we need to keep in mind. Okay, I hope it is understandable for you, all of you. I have discussed article 110A. As of now, I have mapped articles 110A and I have mapped article 112, article 113. Article 113 clearly saying charged expenditure cannot be put to vote, other expenditure can be put to vote and can be called as demand for grants, right? So these three things we have covered here, and we'll go back to the key to budget documents again. So as you see, there are three documents which are mandated by the constitution. Once again, remember, article 112 talks about annual financial statement, article 113 talks about demand for grants, article 110A of Indian Constitution talking about finance bill. So this is where demand for grants comes up with the expenditure part, and similarly if you talk about 110A, it is talking about receipts part, and article 112 is saying that we need expenditure and receipts part. Expenditure should be classified into charged and voted part we call it as demand for grants. Charged part we can charged part cannot be put to vote. It is mentioned in article 113. What is there in charged expenditure? It is mentioned in article 112 of class 3. Although you don't have to remember all the subclasses, but you know now what it is, right? Where it is emanating from, right? So apart from that, when the documents at serial number D12 are presented as per the provisions of FRBM Act 2003. So you can see D12. So there are two important documents. Before, these are the documents we used to have, but remember, we got a huge deficit crisis in year 2000. So we have deficits. When we talk about deficit, we have fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit. Normally, the Indian budgeting expenditure is more than the receipts. So there are different types of deficits which we need to understand. When deficits are going beyond and when borrowings are becoming more, so there is no responsibility burden on the executive. So the legislature brought this particular act on recommendations of E.A. Sharma. A committee was constituted on fiscal discipline of the executive. For fiscal discipline, for financial discipline, because they were borrowing so much. When they are borrowing so much means the deficit is more. When the deficits are more, when they are borrowing so much, So there has to be some kind of mechanism. There should be some kind of mechanism where they should feel responsible, where they should bring the borrowings less, where they have to reduce the deficits, where they need to target the deficits, where they have to repay the debts. So in this context, when I say in 2000 year 2000, we had huge deficits. So based on this, a committee was constituted, E.A. Sharma committee. This committee gave a report that we need to have a fiscal responsibility, right? So Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003 came into picture. FRBM Act 2003 came into picture. This is where we have fiscal policy statements. These two are fiscal policy statements. Once again, I am telling the borrowings are becoming more, the deficits are becoming more. They wanted the executive to be more disciplined. So E.A. Sharma gave a recommendation based on this. FRBM committee gave a report, because of which in budgeting 2 documents were added. One is macroeconomic framework statement. If you open this, you will understand what is the GDP, what is the inflation, every other thing is mentioned. A clear-cut statement in 1 page where you can understand the macroeconomic parameters of the country. The second one is medium-term fiscal policy. Medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement. So what is going to be your strategy for fiscal consolidation? What is going to be your fiscal consolidation strategy for the medium term? Let it be 3 years, let it be 5 years, right? What is going to be that? You need to tell. The executive has to tell to the legislature that this is going to be my strategy. Although there is a clear-cut exemptions during the time of war or like during the time of COVID crisis. So there are exemptions. You don't have to come up with a strategy or because of which the deficits or borrowing will become more. So there are exceptions except this emergency period. In normal years, every other government should come up with a strategy on fiscal consolidation. Okay. So these are the 2 documents mandated by that. One of the important update you need to keep in mind, in 2016 on FRBM, review committee was established and N.K. Singh is the chairman of that, and it gave recommendations on fiscal deficit targets and fiscal consolidation. So that we need to keep in mind. Those recommendations are important for your mains examination, and those are the targets. Like when you talk about inflation, a band is there, 2 to 6% is the band. Likewise, there are targets for every other parameter in budget. Fiscal deficit targets are there, primary deficit targets are there, and we'll keep the target and we'll see how the numbers are hovering between that. If it is going beyond this particular target, we'll try to reduce that. We'll try to target and reduce it. Okay. So this is what mentioned in D. Next document. Other documents at serial number E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L are in the nature of explanatory statements supporting the mandated documents with narrative of user-friendly format suited for quick and contextual references. Remember, kaisa pata chalega aam aadmi ko what is the expenditure, what is the receipt, if you have a different method of accounting, right? So here what they are doing, they are trying to bring user-friendly formats. They are trying to make documents so that a common man understands these documents. They are trying to tell to the common man, this is what we are doing. So these are the explanatory documents, right? The output outcome monitoring framework will have clearly defined outputs and outcomes of various central sector. In expenditure profile, more schemes, welfare burden is more, social sector burden is more in expenditure normally, social sector, in which we have welfare burden or social sector burden, in which we have central sector schemes and central sponsored schemes. Here we will try to understand, here in this particular output outcome monitoring framework, they will clearly mention how much is being spent, how much is the outlay, how much is being spent, what is the outcome or output, and measurable indicators. When we go to the document, we will understand that clearly. So output, outcome. Against them are the specific targets for year 2023. What they are targeting, what the outputs are. Okay, we will try to see that. Consider Manrega, consider any other PM Gati Shakti, they'll have targets and what is the output, what is the outcome, they'll try to clearly explain you. Unlike before governments where they'll try to spend money luxuriously without any targets, without any responsibility, right? So these another simple statement. Hindi version is also available, so that you can download. So these are the documents we have. So clearly keep in mind, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, M, N, G, K, L, and plus this particular speech of the finance minister. These are the different documents we have. First three documents are mandated by the constitution, 112, 113 and 110A. This is mandated by the parliament. A particular act was made on the recommendations of EAS Sharma recommendations, and which a review also done by NK Singh, right? FRBM Act we call it as, and all these documents are explanatory documents. But remember, once you see all the documents from the next budget, you just have to see 1 to 2 documents so that you will understand budget easily. For the first time you need to understand everything, from the next time it is easy for you. So I'll go back to the annual financial statement. So I'll try to explain in detail so that it will take time. That is the reason why I'm calling it as budget series. I'll try to give you a 4 or 5 videos of 1 hour, 2 hours, so that you will understand everything clearly. The annual financial statement, you know, it is from Article 112. Article 112, Class 1, Class 2, Class 3. These are the things you need to keep in mind clearly. For both polity and economy, this is important. Annual financial statement is the document as provided under Article 112, shows the estimated receipts and expenditure of Government of India for 2023-24, financial year 24, along with the estimates for 2022 and 23. So 23 along with the estimates for 2023, 22, 23, as also actuals for 21 and 22. So budget estimates for the present year, you can see clearly here, 112 shows the estimated receipts and expenditure of Government of India for 23-24, along with the estimates of 22, 23, and these are the 3 documents we have: 20, 21, 22, 20, 22, 23, 20, 23, 24. You will have budget estimates for this, you will have revised estimates for this, budget estimates for this, because remember the budget is presented, we are still in 2022, 23. If you can identify, we are still in 2022 and 23 final quarter. In this quarter only we are coming up with the budget estimates, okay, advanced. So 2023 estimates we will have, but we will have actuals of 2021, 22. So you understand that, along with estimates, actuals. You have the real numbers of 21, 22, you have the estimates of 22, 23, and you have the estimates of 23, 24. Why we have estimates of 22, 23? We are still in February 2023, and this financial year ends in March. So we are still in here, so still we have two more months to go, and the numbers are not available. So we call them as revised estimates. So if you can see for the next year what it will become, 20, 24, 25, what it will become? Budget estimates. 20, 23, 24, it will become revised estimates. Similarly 20, 22, 23, it will become actuals. So this cycle goes forever, okay. So this is what we need to understand. The receipts and disbursement are shown in 3 parts on government account. We reached the important point here. We reached the important point. So this expenditure, this receipt is on which account? The receipts and disbursements are shown under 3 parts in which government accounts are kept. Government accounts are kept in 3 forms. One is the consolidated fund of India, the second one is contingency fund of India, the third one is public account of India. So these are the 3 accounts we have. We will go back to the constitution and see where these articles are. Here we arrive at this particular part. Part 12 of Indian Constitution, finance, property, contracts and suits. The first chapter, finance. In first chapter, finance, we have Article 266. But remember one article, 265 also important. What is 265 is saying? 265 is saying that taxes not to be imposed save by authority of law. No tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of law. Remember article 265. No tax, no law, no tax. If there is no law, no tax. You cannot collect tax without law. Law is important. We need to make a law and collect the tax. That is first thing in finance, contracts, suits and property, in which we have our big account 266, consolidated funds and public account of India. Consolidated fund and public account of India. Subject to the provisions of article 267 and the provisions of the chapter with respect to the assignment of the whole or part of net proceeds of certain taxes, duties of the states, all revenues received by the government of India. Remember this, all receipts received by the government of India, all loans raised by the government of India, even the money which is taken as a loan, whatever money which is coming to government of India has to get deposited into consolidated fund of India. That government by the issue of treasury bills, loans or ways and means advances and all the monies received by the government in repayment of loans shall form one consolidated fund to be entitled Consolidated Fund of India. We call it as Consolidated Fund of India. Simply remember, whatever money coming, right, it has to go to Consolidated Fund of India. And all the revenues received by the government of the state, all loans raised by the government by the issue of treasury bills, etc. are called Consolidated Fund of India. This is the miracle. People get confused. Article 266, one is talking about Consolidated Fund of India, and which article is talking about Consolidated Fund of the state? It is the same article. Article 266, one is talking about Consolidated Fund of India and Consolidated Fund of States also. Remember that. Next one. Just map the articles, we will go back and see. Part 12 of Indian Constitution. All other public monies received on or behalf of the government of India, government of the state shall be credited to public account of India, public account of the state as the case may be. So we will have article 2662 is talking about public account of India. Any money which is received by government of India which have to be paid back. I will tell you an example. If I am collecting tax, I don't have to pay back to the citizens. So that is part of Consolidated Fund of India. But if I am giving money in form of National Savings Scheme, National Pension Scheme, Provident Fund or any postal bank saving schemes, government has to give that money back to the people, right? When they are trying to save money with you, you have to give that money back to people. Those monies which have to be given back to the people are called public monies. Any money which is raised by the government, which is called public money received on behalf of the government of India or government of the state, is called public account of India 2662. 2662. Remember, public account of India and public account of state both are there in 2662. No monies out of the Consolidated Fund of India or the Consolidated Fund of the state shall not be appropriated except in accordance with the law and for the purposes and in the manner provided in the Constitution. So this is mentioned in Article 112 clearly how the money has to be taken, right? A procedure for finances which we saw, Article 112. No money in Consolidated Fund of India can be taken in accordance with the Constitution. You have to take money in accordance to the law and constitution. You need to abide the constitution and law. So the procedure is mentioned in the constitution. Like I said, voted expenditure, charged expenditure, right? So that is one part. Then coming Article 267. Article 267 is saying contingency fund. Parliament may by law establish a contingency fund in the nature of an imprest to be entitled in the contingency fund of India. I'll tell you what is imprest, into which shall be paid from time to time such sums as may be determined by such law, and said fund shall be placed the disposal of the President to enable advances to be made by him in consolidated fund of India. Such fund for purposes of meeting unforeseen expenditure pending authorization of the Parliament. So this is called ex post facto approval. Article 267 is contingency fund of India. It is kept in the hands of President for meeting the exigencies, for the emergencies, right? Normally we have 30,000 crore in this account. 30,000 crore is there in this particular account. This is an impressed account. 30,000 crore amount is there. When the Parliament is not in meeting, when the legislature is not in meeting, executive will do the expenditure from contingency fund of India to meet any emergency, and later after the Parliament is summoned, they will present the expenditure to the Parliament and have to take the approval. Remember, legislature is the ultimate sovereign, legislature is a sovereign institution in India, so it has to take the approval from the legislature. But the question is whether we are taking approval beforehand or afterhand. Before the expenditure, after the expenditure. Here it is post facto approval, that is contingency fund of India. So going back to the document. So we see three accounts. So we know the source of this account: 2661, 267, 2662, right? The annual financial statement distinguishes the expenditure on revenue account from the expenditure on other accounts, and mandated the Constitution of India, that is mentioned in Article 112, clearly 112 class 2. The revenue and the capital sections together make the union budget. The estimates of receipts and capital expenditure included in the annual finance statement are net of refunds and recoveries respectively. So remember this particular word, net. The numbers which are mentioned in the annual financial statement are not gross numbers but net numbers. Okay, net, what is net? It is not the total receipts. For example, if a particular department is having receipts and expenditure, the net numbers are there in particular financial statement. You need to invest little more time. When we go back to that particular document, we will understand more about it, right? Net and gross differentiation is one thing you need to keep in mind while understanding this document. The significance of consolidated fund of India and contingency fund of India and public account of India, as well as distinguishing features of revenue and capital proportions, are given briefly. As I said, these three are the accounts we have. One is consolidated fund of India. We saw the article clearly, so we don't have to remember, we don't have to read here. Just remember Article 266, 266, 1, whatever is there in that article is there here. And the next one is 267, as I said, ex post facto approval, right? How much money is there? 30,000 crore money is there for any unforeseen exigency expenditure, right? And the third one is 2662, which is public account of India. Money is held by the government, interest are kept in public account of India. Public monies we call them as public trust is important here, right? So we have the example somewhere here. Provident funds, small saving collections, receipts of government set apart for the expenditure on specific subjects such as road development, primary education, other reserve special funds are examples of money is kept in public account. These are the few examples where we have to give back money to public. This is what we need to keep in mind. Okay. And the another important one, I'll go to that section. Demand for grants is another important. So I'll go back to the section of receipts, revenue receipts and capital receipts little later, but I will tell you demand for grants, which I have explained clearly, right? Demand for grants mentioned in Article 113, we saw this article clearly, mandated the estimates of expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India included in annual statement and required to be voted by Lok Sabha. Charged need not to be voted, but these are to be voted. Be submitted in the form of demand for grants. Those expenditures which have to be voted are called demand for grants. The demands for grants are presented to the Lok Sabha along with annual financial statement. Generally, demand for grant is presented in respect of each ministry or department normally. However, more than one demand may be presented for a ministry or department. A department or ministry can present more than one grant or on the nature of expenditure. With regard to the union territories, without legislature, a separate demand is presented for each union territories. Union territories without legislature, then we will present a demand for grant for a particular union territory. In budget 23-24, there are 1 or 2 demand for grants. Remember these things. Remember, this is important. 1 or 2 demand for grants are there. 1 or 2 demand for grants doesn't mean 1 or 2 departments. Remember, as I said, one ministry or one department can present more than one demand for grant. So this many demands are there. This many demands will be discussed and voted in legislature. That is the first part we need to understand, right? Each demand initially gives separately the totals of voted and charged expenditure, each revenue and capital expenditure, and the grand total on gross basis of the amount of expenditure and demand for grant. Demand for grants, normally a demand is presented in voted and charged. You can see each demand initially gives separately the totals of voted and charged expenditure. Second, the revenue and capital expenditure. The next one is revenue and capital expenditure. What is revenue? What is capital expenditure? It is due for learning. We will learn it little late in the session. This is followed by the estimates of expenditure under different major heads of account. The amount of recoveries are also seen. The net amount of expenditure after reducing the recoveries for the gross amount is also shown. So we will try to see the documents. When you see the documents, you will understand it clearly. Okay, this is about demand for grant, Article 113. We will try to take an example here in the document. Each demand normally includes total provisions required for a service, that is provision on account of revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, grants to state and union territories, and also loans and advances relating to that service. For example, we are taking interest payments. This is in demand for grant 39. We had 1 or 2. We have 1 or 2 demand for grants. Demand number 39 is talking about interest payments. A separate appropriation as distinct from a demand is presented to the expenditure, and it is not required to be voted by the Lok Sabha. Where, however, expenditure on service includes both voted and charged. Remember, as we said in Article 113 clearly, there are 2 types, voted and charged. Charged will not be put to vote, voted will be discussed and voted, right? Those expenditures which are voted can be put to motions of the Lok Sabha, where the amounts can be decreased or the amount can be nullified also. There are motions, policy cut, token cut, right? So those motions can be passed. Apart from this, we have finance bill. At the time of presenting annual financial statement before the parliament, if finance bill is presented for the fulfillment of requirement of Article 110(1)(a), it is clearly talking about imposition of taxes. Of constitution detailing imposition, abolition, remission, alteration. Remember, imposition, abolition, remission, alteration or regulation of taxes proposed in the budget. It also contains other provisions relating to budget that could be classified as money bill. In constitution, if you read polity, you will understand different types of bills. One is ordinary bill. The next one is money bill, finance bill, type 1 finance bill, type 2 constitutional amendment bill. So these are the types of bills we have. So finance bills normally, as I said, from this particular document only, normally Lakshmikant or any other document will say all the financial bills are not money bills, but all the money bills are finance bills. Remember this particular statement. All the money bills are financial bills, but not all the financial bills are money bills. Financial bills is a macro term, money bills is a micro term. So normally finance bill consists of this particular part. Okay. So this is the article 110A. Normally 110 is also talking about money bill, provisions of money bill. So this is where we wind up this particular session. I hope you understood what we have discussed today. You have to go back to these documents and map the articles which we discussed. So we have to map the articles, we will understand source, origin, why, how about this budgeting. Then we'll get into the budgeting. Obviously, we'll understand the numbers and everything. Okay. Sharad, this document is available clearly in, I'll tell you the source of these documents. This particular key to budget documents is available in India budget website, and the Constitution of India document updated is available in Legislative Department of Government of India. Type Constitution of India Legislative Department, you will get the document. You just have to download the document. These are open source documents, you can use them, right? All right, thank you very much. I hope you understood what we discussed tomorrow. If you can understand, if you can read what we have done today, on this we will build our tomorrow's budget session. We will try to do 5 to 6 sessions on budgeting, so that in normal economic classes we will not tight pack with the budget factuals. Rather, we can discuss more about concepts. I hope you understood. This is the convergence of Indian Constitution and budgeting. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you. Thank you, Burhan. Thank you, Padmashri.